Subjunctive is the second ever Voltshot SMG we have gotten in Destiny 2, with the first obviously being the Immerse SMG. As many people probably know, 900 RPM SMGs have remained arguably the best primary weapon type in the entire game for around 4 years now, which means Subjunctive might just be the new best legendary weapon in the game. I usually get a lot of comments telling me that 720s are better and that things like Unforgiven, Immerse, and No Survivors are the best in slot. But I think most people who view a 720 RPM as the best in the game are falling into a bit of bias. Not in a bad way, but more so that some people have a 720 as their favorite role and think that makes 720s the best in the game. That said, comparing Subjunctive to the Immerse SMG, Subjunctive has a better magazine size, it has more stability, it has better handling, and better reload. Naturally, that comes with a slightly worse range stats and impact, but typically in a PvE setting, these stats tend to not hold as much weight. Against red bars, Immerse hits for 2,815 damage, and Subjunctive hits for 2,412, which is noticeably less, but when you factor in their RPMs, Subjunctive ends up dealing around 7% more damage each and every second, with the single mag damage also being around 7% more in total. And all of this tends to be the exact same case with every rapid fire frame SMG. So overall, compared to a 720 RPM, I think it's pretty easy to tell that in almost every single case, a 900 RPM SMG is better. The only major reason to ever run a 720 would be if it had a unique role that no other 900 offered. Up until this season, that is exactly what Immerse was. For an entire year or so, it was the only SMG in the entire game to drop with Voltshot. Meaning if you wanted a good Voltshot primary, you were limited to this and then maybe like 1 or 2 other primaries of completely different weapon types. With a perk like Voltshot, having this on a full auto type of weapon is also super important. The way that Voltshot works is based on hitting a damage threshold. After hitting the target initially, the enemy becomes jolted and will then send out chain lightning to everything nearby after a certain amount of damage has been dealt to that enemy. This also incurs in a 0.8 second cooldown, so you want to have a weapon that can hit the damage threshold quickly to optimize the extra damage that Voltshot provides, which makes it perfect for a rapid fire SMG. The masterwork, barrels, magazines, and third column perks you have access to and choose are going to have the largest impact on how good your Subjunctive is. So I'm going to be going over everything you should be running, but before I do, this video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder is the most in-depth and realistic vehicle combat game that's ever existed. The game offers PvP battles for everyone and anyone. Whether you guys want fast-paced fighting or a tactical experience, War Thunder has you covered. Speaking of realistic experiences, the damage models of all the aircrafts, the tanks, and the ships are all dynamic and highly detailed. If certain parts of a vehicle or its crew are damaged, the game reflects that in real time, making it super accurate. There's also over 2,000 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships to choose from in-game, and each vehicle offers crazy customization, so you guys can play the way you want and look the way you want too. Best part is, War Thunder requires 0 extra hardware to play. So no matter what system you guys game on, you can play War Thunder right now for free on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Plus, if you log on using my link, you can claim a large bonus pack, including vehicles, an exclusive decorator, and more. Getting back to Subjunctive and the video, we are now over on D2 Foundry, just going over some of the god rolls. In my opinion, this is the best site for PvE and PvP god rolls. Every single perk that we have access to, for example, Golden Tricorn has a ton of readily available information that is highly tested and highly accurate. In the case of something like this, we can also see how like 1 stack is going to affect our damage versus 2 stacks and the conditions to get 1 versus 2 stacks. We can see how enhanced perks are going to affect our weapons compared to the base perks. You can compare to other god rolls, and my favorite feature is all these filters that allow you to find what weapons and what roles actually exist within the game. Subjunctive is a brand new craftable weapon this season, so obviously we have access to the enhanced perks. And then in the 4th column, as we've already discussed, we're going to be running with Voltshot here, so make sure you have this equipped. It's really good for that bonus ad clear, and then obviously we can apply Jolt to a single target, especially if they're really tanky, even like a champion if we want to stun it. And then as we keep dealing damage to them, we're getting bonus ad clear and bonus damage off all the while. With a perk like Voltshot, this is going to heavily rely on our reload because we're going to be getting a kill, reloading to proc Voltshot, and then applying that jolt to the first enemy that we shoot or get a kill on. And then after that happens, assuming we get a kill, we want to spam to get our next reload and then after that, keep applying Voltshot to enemies. So for that reason, in the third column, you want a perk that is really useful to buff your reload speed. Stats for All is a great perk to give you 35 increased reload speed, but better than that is going to be Threat Detector when you're specifically at ×2. This is a ton of reload speed, a handling duration multiplier, max handling, better stability on top of that. The only downside is at ×1, when you're only nearby one enemy, you get a lot less. So if you compare a ×1 to something like Stats for All, I think Stats for All is better. But I also think Stats for All comes with a lot of negatives. You can't reapply the buff once it's already procced. Voltshot and the Jolt effect also isn't going to connect to 3 different targets and allow you to proc Stats for All. You actually have to hit them with Subjunctive, with bullets each and every time. So for that reason, I really do think that ×1 and ×2 Threat Detector is easier to manage, and it also gives you that better bonus. So I think Threat Detector is a clear winner. Even with Threat Detector, the enhanced version at ×2, which gives us 63 reload speed rather than, I think, the base 55, you're going to see that we still are not maxed on our reload speed stat. So for that reason, when it comes to your mag perk, I would highly recommend running Flared Magwell for the 15% increased reload speed. And then lastly, I don't think which barrel you choose makes the biggest difference for weapons. I tend to always default to Hammerforged rifling, especially on my primary weapons. It's just a solid +10 range with no other negative stat effect. Other things are going to give you more range with some negatives and some downsides. I think Hammerforged rifling is just a clear, easy thing to pick. If you have another reason to pick another barrel, go for it. But if you're just defaulting to something, I think Hammerforged is the best place to go. And then finally, when it comes to your masterwork, because we're crafting this, we get to choose our masterwork. So I would still recommend going with a reload speed option. With this, as you're going to see, I'm toggling between the two, and we only really get +2 reload speed out of this. But the main reason we're doing it is because this is assuming, once again, we're at ×2 Threat Detector. So in cases where we aren't at ×2, or even if you decide to not enhance the perk, you still get up to like 68 reload speed, which is a lot better than the 58 when you don't have that masterwork applied. To end the video off, I just wanted to compare Subjunctive to the Iklos SMG. These are the exact same roles being compared. These first two are with ×1 Threat Detector, and these second two are with ×2. So looking at these first, 22 impact, 54 range is much better on the Iklos SMG, but then stability, handling, and reload speed on top of your RPM and also your base mag size are much better on Subjunctive. With the RPM and the mag size, that is around 7% more damage, as I mentioned, for Subjunctive per mag, and 7% more DPS compared to the Iklos SMG. Then after that, once you get to ×2 Threat Detector being procced, you're going to see that your handling and your reload speed are both just maxed out. So the bigger impact is still going to be that RPM and the magazine size. But if you don't really care as much about these two factors and you really just care about the handling and the reload, you could still run Iklos, but I think it's enough evidence to say that Subjunctive is clearly better, and you should really be rocking a 900 RPM SMG with Voltshot. That is pretty much it for the video, guys. The only other perk I think could make this weapon better is something like Enlightened Action in the third column. I think it is a super slept on perk, and it allows for a ton of extra reload speed and handling for basically free on weapons. So with Voltshots, it would be perfect. Once again, a huge thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys click the link down below to play War Thunder for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and get your free bonus pack with vehicles, decorators, and more today.